Stuart Morelli. He is an attorney that works also with the Code Enforcement Office, but the Assistant City Attorney on several issues that he has to work in, particularly this issue with the vacant properties. So Stuart, how you doing? All right. And again, my name is Charlotte Woody, and some of you have probably talked to me before regarding code enforcement and things like that. But today we're going to talk a little bit about the Macon Vacant and Foreclosed Property Ordinance. That's how it is termed in the ordinance itself if you are going looking for it. It is actually found in Chapter 6, Article 3. So if you go to the city clerk's office and you're trying to get a copy, that's what you want to ask for, the Macon Vacant and Foreclosed Property Ordinance. All right, I'm going to just give you a little bit about the ordinance itself and tell you some specifics about it. And again, if you've got any questions at the end of this presentation, I'm going to give you some numbers of the folks you can call if you've got any additional questions, should we have any after this presentation. First of all, you may ask, why was it adopted? Well, it was introduced or presented and sponsored by Councilman Schlesinger and Councilwoman Benedict back, I say July, August, and the 1st of September, it was voted on in council, and it was adopted, first of all, as a mechanism to protect properties in our neighborhoods. Because of that was a lack of maintenance and security that affects the quality of life in our neighborhoods. Because there were hazards to public health, to general safety and welfare of those properties and the citizens in our neighborhoods, and as well as for a need for official information regarding owners of properties or who to contact regarding a specific property. It may even be an agent who's working on behalf of a bank. There are several definitions outlined in the ordinance when you get a chance to take a look, but the one that really stands out and it's really important that you need to know is, what do we term or deem as the vacant real property? And in the ordinance, it is defined as one that is intended for habitation, has not been lawfully inhabited for at least 60 days, and has no evidence of utility usage within the past 60 days. I'm going to say that one again. Intended for habitation, but has not been lawfully inhabited for at least 60 days, and has no evidence of utility usage within the past 60 days. Also, a vacant real property is deemed as one that is partially constructed or incomplete without a valid building permit. That one again is partially constructed or incomplete without a valid building permit. So a property that's just standing with no work or nothing going on, is a vacant property, would fall in these guidelines. As one other part of this definition that is an exception is for vacant real property are those what I consider multifamily properties, where you may have a building or a structure that has multiple units but has common ownership, and that at least one of those units is occupied with evidence of utility usage. So if you've got an apartment complex with 4 apartments inside of that complex, and one of those apartments has some utility usage, it does not fall under the vacant and real property ordinance that we're looking at. The entire unit, that may be something different that we'll have to talk about. Registration details, the owner or agent must register within 30 days of foreclosure of the home becoming vacant. Secondly, they must file with the City of Macon's Finance Office the vacant and foreclosed property registration form and pay a $10 registration fee per property. For example, I had a bank that called me that said they had 300 properties in Macon, all over Macon. That's $10 for every property that they have in Macon, not just an overall just for that bank, they're going to send their $10. No, it's for every property. Registration is not required for vacant and foreclosed properties that are within 90 days of your property transfer. So you're in the midst of where foreclosure is taking place and there's already a buyer in mind of who's going to take this property, then that will be one that will fall under that one where you're about to have a property that is going to be occupied. You must update your registry information that on that form that you're submitting, regardless of how information has changed, whether it was changed through foreclosure, changed through transfer, if the property is going to continue to be a vacant property for foreclosed or vacant property. And then also, if there are multiple owners, the multiple owners are jointly and severally still responsible for this property and making sure they're complying with the ordinance, meaning each one of them is still responsible. One can't say, well, I thought the other would handle. Every one of them is responsible. Wazina Jackson is going to now give each of you a copy of the vacant property registration form. Feel free to make copies. This is the form that we will be using. And I'm going to talk about the specifics that are in that particular form. There are a number of things that are required under the registration requirements that I'm sure you all will be familiar with. one thing, the property owner's information has to be provided. And not only that, they have to provide the mailing address, no P.O. boxes, the mailing address, the street address, phone number, fax number, email address, every way that we can possibly get in touch with you, should we need to get in touch with you, you need to provide. And it's on that form. Also, there's a place for the agent's name. Should the agent be representing the property set for the purposes of maintenance issues? So then you want to make sure you provide the agent's name, same thing, complete address, fax number, email information, all of that. The real property address and the tax parcel number. And I'm sure as realtors you all are familiar with the tax parcel numbers and how to gather all the real property address information. Transfer date of the instrument conveying the property to the owner. What we're looking for there, of course, is the deed book and page, and that should be shown somewhere on the form where you can see, well, you have to know what deed book and page that you're referring to. Recording information to include the deed book and page, and that's the last thing that's there. Does everyone have a copy of the form? Very good. Now the exceptions. It is not required for vacant or foreclosed property within 90 days of property transfer. And that's what we were talking about, the foreclosure or the sale of the property. Pursuant to a deed under power of sale or deed in lieu of foreclosure. Also, to the first subsequent transfers after the vacant real property has been acquired by foreclosure. So those are some exemptions from having to file your registration for vacant and foreclosed properties. Now, say you had to register the property at some point, and now you got to the point where the property is occupied, you'd like to get it off, it may still have been your property, you've got somebody in it, but now you want to remove it from the registry because it's no longer a vacant property. Then you will need to apply to the city a formal written letter saying that you want to proceed on with removing this property from the vacant property registry. The application shall be granted or denied within 30 days, and should you not hear anything within that 30 days, then it's deemed that it is granted. But you should hear something that your application has been granted or denied. The appeal process, you have to make a written appeal to the municipal court within 30 days after filing with the director, and I would say maybe the director of finances, that's who you'll be registering, that you appeal this, whether it's a penalty because you have not paid your filing fee, you will have to do that within 30 days. A hearing is scheduled within 60 days after the filing of that appeal. The judge of the municipal court can request further information once you're in court and he is being heard. He may not make a decision that day. He may request additional information, which will give an additional 35 days following that hearing. The appeal will stay all, or shall stay all proceedings unless there is imminent peril to life or property. So if the property's in the threat to a neighborhood, is about to collapse or something to that effect, then we may have to proceed on it. Will not stay that action should that be, but of course we will make the judge aware of that. The municipal court judge may reverse or affirm, or he in whole, he can, or in part, he can modify the decision or the requirements and makes a determination based on what the circumstance is for the property. So once we go on the court, of course, that's up to the judge how he wants to proceed with that particular case and whether or not it's one based on the conditions that he will be able to offer the stay or have us proceed with further action on the property. One thing about the vacant and foreclosed property registration, it does not prevent any kind of nuisances or code enforcement action. If there's a problem with the property that is a violation to with the nuisance statute or code enforcement laws that we have in place, then the city will proceed with proceeding with enforcing those laws. So nothing will impair, limit, or preempt any of those actions. Now, should someone decide that they don't want to proceed with registering the property or they just forget about it, then the things that happen, there's some violations that are noted to the ordinance and the penalties that are associated with it. What we consider violations, first of all, failure to register the property. Secondly, failure to update any changes in the information that you may have out there. You may say, well, how we know? Well, we come across it as code enforcement officers because we're looking at properties all the time. Somebody who's a neighboring property owner to a vacant property can contact the City of Macon and say, well, there's a vacant property. Then, of course, that will encourage someone to go and investigate a property. Or you yourself may have something that's causing you problems with a property that you may be even trying to sell, and you want to check and see if there's any kind of registry that's taking place. Failing to pay any fees per property. Again, that's the $10 registration fee that you pay per property. The city can issue a citation setting a hearing in municipal court as a part of the adjustment toward the penalty for violation of the ordinance, as well as any person that's found guilty of not filing the registration. They can face fines up to $500 in municipal court. Each property has to be registered, so each property not registered is a separate violation of the offense. If it's 300 properties that you're not registering, there are 300 offenses that you will have in municipal court. Now that's basically what we have. Let me just kind of give you some information about each of us. I'm the code enforcement manager. So if you've got questions regarding whether it's the vacant property or code enforcement issue, I need to give you some contact information for me as well as the rest of us who are here today. My number to reach me in my office is 751-7192. And our office handles code enforcement for 1 and 2 family homes. We also look at vacant lots in the residential area. We look at inoperable vehicles on vacant lots and residences, as well as the care of the yards and premises at these properties. Our department head, Wazina Jackson here, handles not only just working with code enforcement, but a number of other aspects, from the ideas of low interest loans, as well as any kind of grant funding for some of the programs that are throughout the city of Macon. And she can be reached at 751-7190. And Stuart, as assistant city attorney, I'm sure I don't know all the things that he's doing, but from our end, from the legalities of this ordinance, should you have, and you probably will have some questions today, some legalities of this ordinance, he's the person, I would say the point person, if you've got some questions about, well, what's legal, what's not legal, yours is kind of a gray line, he would probably be the person I would say call. And his number would be 751-7651. Is that right? Yeah. For the city attorney's office. Now I'm going to stop right here and give you all a chance to ask me some questions, and hopefully I can answer them. Any questions?
Yeah. I heard two different things. I heard something about within 30 days, and I heard something within 90 days.
Okay.
What's the difference?
Okay, the 30 days, that's the initial. You want you to go ahead and register the property. Your 90 days is when there is going to be a transfer, when somebody's going to occupy, vacant and foreclosed property. Then you've got the 30 days is the initial. You want to make sure you file it within 30 days. So if we go and we look and see that a new deed has been filed on January the 1st, February the 15th, the registry should have been filed.
Okay.
Okay?
It's 30 days from when? It's 30 days from when it's sold on the courthouse steps, or 30 days from when that foreclosure deed is filed at the courthouse? Because that is sometimes months later.
Right.
Yeah.
It's 30 days from when it's deemed, either vacant or foreclosed. So for a vacant property, a property doesn't become vacant until it's been 60 days where it's been unoccupied and the power's been turned off. So really, for a vacant property, it needs to be filed 90 days from when that when the power was turned off. For a foreclosed property, depending on what method it's foreclosed on, you've got different timelines. If it's a regular foreclosure of a mortgage, which not a security deed, but going back to the the ancient mortgage, which none of the banks probably do anymore, it would be 30 days from that, from the sale on the courthouse steps. If it's foreclosing on a security deed, then it's 90 days. It's supposed to be on the registry 90 days after it's been foreclosed on the courthouse steps. So really,
not when the deed's filed.
Right, and really it goes back. It would be actually 120 days because you've got 30 days to register once it becomes eligible. So for a foreclosed property, it's really going to be, if it's foreclosed upon and it's filed within 120 days, then you're good from the sale on the courthouse steps.
Okay.
If the foreclosure actually took place.
How are we handling it?
I understand, and that's the problem is it's the state law. This is how the law was defined by the state, and recent decisions by the state Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals have just made it even muddier. Because if there's a sale on the courthouse steps, that's no longer necessarily a final sale from the bank's perspective.
But you got confirmation time. Confirmation time. The property owner has the right to file for confirmation.
Yes.
So once a person files for confirmation, then that has to be said and done before we can even get involved.
Yes.
So you're saying we're still gonna be in trouble if it's confirmation hearing?
The confirmation is really only on when you're doing, you know, tax liens and whatnot. A bank's doing the foreclosure and see, I don't know how many of y'all are actually handling, you know, bank foreclosure security deeds. That's the 90-day timeline. If that, for, you know, the confirmation time, state legislature left that, you know, undefined. And we were, this is the law that the state said city could adopt, and we adopted it. Confirmation time was not factored in, so that's gonna have to be worked out down the line once these matters get going through the courts.
Has been another question?
Well, my question, if this came into effect September 1st, and here we are in October, and we haven't registered anything, anybody in the room registered any house? So what happens to all the ones that are out there now that aren't registered? Are we gonna be fined?
We're still working on, you know, the filing process with the city, so we haven't begun any enforcement actions yet. So if you haven't registered yet, don't worry about it. We're not coming after everybody yet.
To register something, do I have to have when you put in here deed, book, and page, you're looking for the foreclosure deed, right?
Correct.
Yes.
I mean, have any of y'all here before yet? Man, we get down to closing and foreclosure deeds aren't even filed.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't have that information a lot of times, but that's what I have to have to register this.
The state requires that on these registries, so if you've got a vacant property, I'd encourage y'all to go on, if you know you've got a property that falls under the definition, and you've got 90% of the information, go on and give us that. And once you get the deed book page, give it to us and we'll update the registry.
So my next question was, if I don't know who the owner is, again, dealing with foreclosures, I don't always know who the actual bank that owns it.
Well, no, it would be whoever purchased it on the courthouse step. That's when the owner.
I got a question here. I'll get both sides.
Is this form available to be filled out online on the Bibb County thing? I sure hope it is.
It's not, but I can email it to you. And if any of you want, if you give me your email address, I'll email it to you. But it's not, and I know that's the plan, I think, is to get it on the
That form itself was created by I think it was the State Department of Audits, and so it is online. You know, you'd have to fill it out and print it out and still mail it in. There's not a e-filing system
Oh,
with
come
the
on,
city.
guys, this is 2013. I cannot believe I've got to fill out a piece of paper and fax it. Faxes are almost a thing of the past. That's crazy. Okay, my second question, what proof is needed for the transfer, the 90-day thing? See, like Denny said, I may get a house and I don't know who owns it yet. Fannie Mae sends me the listing. 5 days later, I get it under contract. I don't know, what information do you need from me?
Are y'all managing these properties, or are you just listing them?
No.
Well, see,
We're
I think
listing
right, and I think this is going to relieve a lot of y'all. This liability is only on the owner and a property manager. So if you're just listing the property, you yourselves have no responsibility to make sure it gets filed.
Right,
Whoa,
but if we're
whoa,
listing it for
whoa, wait a
Wells
minute.
Fargo,
Correct.
then Wells Fargo is responsible?
Correct.
How do they know they're responsible?
We've been in contact with a number of the big banks. They know that this is coming.
Okay,
So,
So there was no reason for me to.
so actually, if we're just agents, we don't have to worry about this.
correct. Unless you are managing the vacant property, you don't have any. I can't foresee. It would depend on your legal relationship with the owner, but without some sort of contractual relationship saying you're managing the property, we're not going to come after any of y'all if a property is
All we do
not
is make
registered.
sure the power's on and the grass is cut.
Hmm?
All we do is make sure the power's on and the grass is cut.
I mean,
That's not
that's-
managing.
Now that,
whatever agreement is with the.
yeah, it would really depend on your agreement, but I'd say no without just.
Oh, I mean, basically, that's all it is.
Correct.
That's all we do.
I mean, if that's most of what you're doing, I mean, I don't know your individual legal relationships, but just based upon making sure the grass is cut and the power's on, I can't say that that's your responsibility to make sure it's on the registry.
Good.
There was a question back in the back as well.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
I'm asking from the perspective of a realtor and from an investor.
Okay.
If I own rental property and it goes vacant and it's vacant for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, that I maintain power on that property, do I have to register?
No. If you keep the power, if the power is on constantly, then it's not vacant under the law.
Just
so there's no
power?
need to register.
Just
They're
power.
talking about vacant as opposed to foreclosed, it's two different things.
Oh, okay, but all you have to have on is electricity, you don't have to have the gas and the water on.
You need to have one utility.
One utility, okay.
So the follow-up to that is if it is a foreclosure and I turn power on that property, then I still don't have to register, as I understand it.
Correct. The definition of when the utilities are on and off doesn't apply to a foreclosed property. It only applies to if it's falling under as a vacant property. So not all vacant properties are going to be foreclosed properties, and not all foreclosed properties are going to be vacant. But a lot of your foreclosed properties are going to be vacant.
Yeah. I list properties from the government as well, for the U.S. government. How do you proceed with them?
They are not exempt, but if their lawyers want to try and stop us, they can. That issue hasn't come up yet in this city. It has come up in other cities.
Just as.
I didn't hear that. Say that again. Did you have another question, sir? Okay.
And please be reminded that this is based on state law, that we did not come up with all of this on our own. This is based upon the law that was passed on the state level. And the form that you're asking about is a form that was created on the state level.
Does that make it bad?
No, we're just saying that some of the questions or some of the information that you're asking for, we're implementing moving forward with regards to the information that has come from the state. So when he asked about the form being available in the electronic format and everything else at this particular time, that is the way that it's being made available to us. So it may improve as we move along, but this is a process that all of us are just starting.
Any other questions?
But your form does say communications by email at the bottom.
Yep.
We just need to get the finance department's email.
I mean, the payment for, each one of these is gonna have to come with a payment, so y'all can mail that form in, but it's not gonna be officially complete until the payment comes in. So you can fax it, you can email it to the finance department, but it's not officially received until payment also comes in. The finance department is working on setting up those procedures, but that's why we haven't begun enforcement yet.
Where is it sent to?
To the finance department, it's there on the 3rd floor in City Hall. And I can get, say it again? It's not listed on that sheet there,
Address.
but it's P.O. Box 247.
PO box.
That's for the one registered. That's for the one registered. P.O. Box 247, Macon, Georgia, 31208, I believe. And the city is City Hall Finance Department, and you put attention Megan McMahon.
Oh, wait a minute.
Megan, M-E-G-A-N, McMahon, M-C-M-A-H-O-N.
You're stating that this was passed by the state of Georgia.
The General Assembly authorized these registries at its last session. The City Council adopted a registry for the city
Okay, so
in September.
The state did not pass this as law for the state of Georgia.
The state authorized these registries
It's
within
an
these
authorization.
guidelines.
It's an authorization.
Yes,
Uniformity of authorization.
correct.
Why is it that the city of Macon, if you know the answer, is give us 2 days to comply with something like this? It's passed on the end of August, effective September the 1st. Nobody in right man can go out here and respond to these things. It's
The
2 months.
legal effective date was the date listed in the ordinance, but as I said, it's not being enforced at this time because the procedures are still being
But it's
set.
an enforceable date, though. It may not be being enforced, but it's an enforceable date. And I don't understand why the legal department allows that to, you can have it to become effective January 1, then giving people time to have these meetings and find out really what you all are wanting, what we got to do. It's just like the boxing glove, and y'all got the machine gun, and we got BB guns. It's not right.
Is the city asking us to assist them in identifying these vacant properties?
They tell you.
Is that the goal here?
But the goal is for that when there's a vacant or foreclosed property, the city has a local person that can be contacted in case code enforcement issues pop up with that property.
The registry be public?
The information in the registry is subject to the Open Records Act, and the city does have the option of posting it online. I don't know of any plans to do that.
Has the city filed their properties already?
Pardon?
Has the city filed their own properties already?
City
City of Macon owns properties, have they filed their own properties already?
City properties are exempt from a lot of city laws. We know our own, we know who to contact when there are issues with our own properties.
But you're missing that $10 a property.
So it goes from one pocket of the city to another? I mean,
Well,
Legislators always make the laws to exempt themselves.
Go ahead.
I want to go back to something you were talking about a minute ago, made me think about something. If I'm a listing agent for a bank, foreclose on a property, and I'm the listing, but I call it agent, but I'm the listing agent, but that's not the agent you're referring to.
no, the agent in this regard is a property
That
manager.
bank asked me as a part of my job to file this for them. I would fill out their information, but I would not fill out the agent information, because by your definition, I'm not their agent.
You would fill out whatever information they told you to fill out on that form. It's their responsibility to designate the agent. And if they're asking you to fill out this form, then if I was in your position, I would not submit it until they gave me who they wanted the agent to be.
Because he's stepping in as their agent, and then he becomes legally responsible for any action you may have against him, is that correct?
If he were to put his name on that property, then he would be listing himself as the agent responsible for updating that property.
Subject to the penalties.
The owner is still subject to the
So
penalties.
I'm getting around to it. Yeah, so that's what I'm getting around, well, that's a good question. So then maybe what needs to happen is the attorney that did the foreclosure for the bank should be their agent. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean,
Your definition of an agent.
correct, and what an agent is under this ordinance is someone who is managing this property. It's the person that can be contacted by the city if a code enforcement issue pops up. And it's up to the owner to designate whomever they want to be their agent.
That's us. Okay.
Let's go back to a rental unit. I have a rental property. Then it gives me notice September 1st. Vacate by October 1st. That date, October 1, it has not been re-rented. What is my responsibility under this?
Are utilities still, are you leaving the utilities on at the property?
I'm asking you to tell me what my responsibility is. Either A, with utilities, or B, without utilities.
With utilities, you're not gonna file the property registration, the vacant property registration, because
But then I've got to pay Georgia Power $30 to transfer to me, so it's cheaper for me to pay you 10 to fill the form, if I'm willing for that to go on the list.
right.
All right, so let's say the utilities are off, and I do not sign up to Georgia Power or water or gas for that property. Then what is my responsibility?
Is your intent to place somebody back into that property?
Oh, yeah, it's for lease, it just hasn't rented yet.
You got the 90-day period, you got the 90-day period.
It's a rental property, it has been established for rental for years. And so,
If it meets the definition of a vacant property for more than 60 days, it needs to be registered.
all right, so then it's 60 days from what? October 1?
60 days from when the last utility is cut off.
Okay. So we will say it's going to cut off October 1.
Correct.
So now we're talking about 60 days.
Correct.
Which would be then November the 30th,
Correct.
maybe 29th, because October's got 31 days, so I don't know how it's going to be. So then I would send this in, as long as it's postmarked, is that acceptable, or does it
As
have?
long as it's postmarked within the
60
30 days after the 60th day.
Oh, okay, so that's the way
Yes.
you're tacking on another 30 days there.
You have,
So we're going to like 120
you have
days.
30 days to file a registry from whenever the property needs to be on the registry. A vacant property needs to be on the registry if the power has been off for more than 60 days. Or all the utilities have been off for 60 days
After the power's been off 60 days, you still have 30 days to
to
register.
file a form. Yes, sir.
Right.
Okay, so you got 90 days.
Now, I've registered the property is now rented. I want it taken off the registry.
Okay, you would write the written letter that you want it removed from the registry, and then you'll get a response back,
And what's the timetable on you to give me a response back?
30 days.
30 days, or if you don't hear with us within 30 days. it's
Legally, you
automatic.
have 30 days to give me that time, otherwise it's automatically all by operational law.
Automatically.
And that letter goes to the same address and the same person?
Yes.
Can it be emailed?
No. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. Excuse me.
I'm not sure I got a response to what proof is needed of the transfer. What kind of proof do you need?
What type of transfer are we talking about?
I write a contract on a foreclosure house that Fannie Mae owns
Okay.
that has never had power turned on to it because there's no wiring in it.
Okay.
It's basically in a neighborhood that nobody wants to live anymore. But I finally sell it. Fannie Mae owns it. It's got no power. I'm in trouble because I didn't whatever. But what proof do you need for transfer? I mean, what are you asking for? So for me to have to write you another letter to get it taken off. But what proof do you need of the transfer?
Ultimately,
You said deed.
we need signed closing documents, preferably a deed. But I've done real estate closings before. We're not requiring the filed deed with, the date book stamp on top. If you send us a fully signed deed that, you get 3 copies made, however many you make an extra copy and you mail that in. As long as it's signed and dated, that's sufficient for us to remove it. We don't need the
You
date.
talking about the HUD? Talking about the HUD settlement statement?
What I'm gonna say,
I mean, any statement that we can see as a clear closing document should be sufficient, but a deed, a fully signed and dated deed, would be the best evidence.
A copy of the sold listing out of the MLS? No, right?
No.
but if you have a copy of an executed HUD, wouldn't that be sufficient?
That's none of that business.
If I was making that argument, I mean, until told otherwise, I think that would be sufficient. I'm saying a deed is the best evidence, but a fully signed HUD that identifies the property and, has got a sales date fully executed, that should be sufficient proof of a closing.
So a letter from a closing attorney?
I think a letter from a closing attorney made in his capacity as doing that would be evidence. As I said, a deed is the best evidence. But I mean, we need some sort of documentation that we can, just put in the file.
But I got 30 days because the deed won't be recorded in Bibb County for weeks. I'm still not sure what you need.
But that goes along with that letter that we're, to get off the registry, is that
Right,
right?
that goes with the letter.
Okay.
Why did the city start this? Because this already have been happening all the time, foreclosed and vacants. Why all of a sudden the city decided to get involved in this?
To touch on what I was talking about, the safety in the neighborhoods and some of the issues that we're having with locating owners, or there's multiple owners, that was one of the reasons that they initiated this, was to try to address that and hopefully assist in, well, not just code enforcement, but any efforts to identify property owners.
So just for properties, identify property owners.
Information on property owners, contact me.
No, not right now, but in the future, will there be a way to check online to see if the property has already been added to
Is it registered or not?
Yes, that's a great question.
That's a good question. I can't tell
I
you
mean,
right now,
because
but
a lot
that's
of
a good one
times
to
when we
take.
get these listings, they've already been vacant for months.
Right.
And so it'd be nice to be able to
See you
see
later.
that online.
Check the register.
I'm gonna take a note for that and make sure I talk about that.
But if we get a listing now, and this just came in effect in September, but the property been vacant for about 5 months, does that apply to this?
Well, we're not going back to the 5 months. We're at the point, we're starting right now. Okay, so we're still in the, getting all the administrative details all worked out, but I would say start getting your properties ready and start preparing your documents. We've got banks and some other private property owners that are already calling us, and they're preparing their documents and submitting them. Any other questions?
Are y'all proactive in trying to contact people with vacant properties? I think Nancy's point is very valid. Many times by the time we're contacted, property's been vacant for a year.
Yeah.
So have y'all been proactive in contacting some of these buyers?
Yes,
So potentially they've been put on the registry already.
Well, from the code enforcement process, we are forwarding letters to people who are contacting us, whether it's a customer that's a violator or somebody who's just called us about code enforcement issues. We're also anticipating some publication to come out to educate just all the citizens of Macon, not just realtors or investors, but everybody to know about if you've got a vacant property out there, you need to register the property. So we do see that forthcoming, but we have already started with getting the word out to customers and people that come into our offices about it and to the courts.
And a number of the big banks have been,
Yeah, the banks have been
proactive in contacting us on, getting the information they need. Bank of America is one. I don't know the others. I know that they're represented by Paul Hastings, the law firm Paul Hastings in Atlanta. So I'm
So
assuming
how
it's
do we
another
find
bank.
out, so as a real estate agent listing foreclosure properties, if I get an assignment, who would I call to find out if it's already been registered or not?
At this point, it'll be the finance office, because I won't get those documents from the very onset. She will when the registry information comes
What is
in.
their phone number?
751 7240.
What was her name?
Megan McMahon. That's the name that for the attention.
Could you repeat the last 4 digits?
Yes, I can. 7240.
Thank you.
And that's the finance department.
Yeah, because if the bank's already doing it directly, it may be that by the time it gets to me, they've already registered.
Yeah, already done. Right.
What does this really mean, that a property has been registered?
It will just provide the ownership information, should there be any question about who's the owner of this property, if there's any kind of problem, or if there's any there may be some other plans for the property and they want to contact with the owners, and you can't figure it out from looking at, well, it's tax records, because it may show back to the same property. And that way you've got some identifying or some contact information, should you have any questions, or some additional information you want to share with that owner.
This creates a cloud on a property. And under the seller's disclosure forms, and this is a realtor, we don't have anything in our forms that we have to check, do we? That this is a registered property?
It's either REO or not. Is that?
Complying with this act.
Yeah.
There's
Disclosure,
nothing there to disclose whether yes or no.
disclosure statement might say, are you under any code violations? Is this a code violation?
This would get.
Not all the properties that'll be registering will be code violations. Some are, just vacant because people have vacated them and left and moved on to do something else.
So do the fines transfer with the property if the property is sold?
Board added to disclosure.
No.
So if somebody,
No. If
Then you got no.
If Bank A has a property that it foreclosed upon, it does not register that property, and it subsequently transfers that property to Mr. X, any fine that could have been applied upon Bank A for not filing will not transfer over to Mr. X.
so then no disclosure is needed.
So all these questions are arising because it's in the infant stage, right? This project.
It's at the very beginning.
So what's the city's drop dead date on this? I mean, is it by January 1st if we haven't started doing this, or by middle of May? I mean, I know it's effective, but you're giving us a warm-up period here. Thank you, I appreciate it, because we didn't understand it.
We're hoping to have all the procedures set by the end of the year.
Okay, that's reasonable.
Would you accept, if you got somebody with
I'm also the prosecuting attorney for housing code cases and housing court. I will not bring any penalty cases before the first of the year.
You'll put that in
somebody's
writing?
got 300 properties on video.
No, that's a serious question, don't lie.
I'll send it, yeah, I'll
Yeah,
give you my card, I'll give you my card.
Yeah, I'm glad it writing to the board. We had a lead-based paint man in here on the same thing. He agreed to do it, and he didn't do it. So
I'll give you my card, you send me an email, I will send you an email.
Arlene got that on video.
Sorry about that.
You had a question, someone else had a question?
Where you take one check for multiple properties with some kind of
A listing or
statement
something
of,
attached.
you got 300 properties, one check for 3,000.
Yeah, there's no reason to do an individual check.
300.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
yeah.
And check or cash only, or will you be able to take credit cards for it?
I believe finance, I don't know what they're set to
Yeah.
take.
You probably want to contact that number I gave you for Ms. McMahon and ask her that specifically before you go to take care of your properties. Any other questions?
What are the problems you experiencing now?
for the people not registered from this right here. Just people being knowledgeable of the ordinance, and we make sure they get the information that they need regarding the ordinance. I really hadn't had a whole lot of problem with these folks trying to educate themselves about the ordinance and, you know, whether or not their property is one that falls under it.
This been in effect 30 days and we have no problems yet.
Not right now, I haven't had any problems.
We appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you again for inviting us. And you have our numbers if you need to get in touch with us. Again, my name is Charlotte Williams, as well as Anna Jackson and Stuart Varela. Thank you again.